Tonight, a recent pirate attack has left Colossus residents wondering, where were all the security droids?
And rumors swirl of a galactic racing hotshot looking to cause an upset at the annual Colossus Classic. Sleestack at the racing desk has all the information you'll need to hedge your bets. 9/11.
Welcome back, Colossus residents, to another episode of Hoth Topics, a podcast about Star Wars.
That's us.
My name is Ian, and I will be your racing bookie for the evening. Joining me today is John, a starship mechanic. John, how are you doing tonight?
I feel like I've already been a starship mechanic.
Maybe. I usually try to skew you to be more like...
tech savvy?
Well, definitely more Imperial.
Okay.
So,
I mean, at some point we're gonna have to start reusing
absolutely.
material.
Yeah. I usually just take a job and slap the word Imperial in front of it.
Oh,
for
yeah,
you.
that makes sense.
But this time, I didn't do that.
Alright, so what do you got for us today?
Well, we are back with 3 more episodes under our belt of Star Wars Resistance, and I thought we could chat a bit about it today.
Well, real quick, this came to my head earlier today before we talked about recording. That I blatantly stole the name for our Resistance review thing
from StarWars.com?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that until today.
Oh, I thought you did it on purpose.
No, I thought I was being super original. And I was like, I wonder if anyone else has used Resistance Recon. Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's different. There's an entire word different. 50% of it is different, so it's fine. Right? That's how copyright
math
infringement works.
I feel like Lucasfilm would be more forgiving than Hot Topic will be.
Yeah, but they don't care.
So what are we talking about? I got distracted.
Yeah, we're talking about Resistance.
Oh, yeah.
That Star Wars TV show that we've been watching. So we have 3 more episodes that we just watched. And when I say just watched, I mean we watched 2 of them a week ago and then watched the other one today. Now, John, you had a little bit of a snafu with your notes.
They got removed from my tablet, but to be fair, this is a tablet that I got for Christmas, and I'm not exactly sure how it all works yet.
Right.
Because the only other tablet I had was like 10 years ago when the Nick Color came out. Which was just a super cheap Android tablet that you could only read Barnes & Noble books on unless you hacked it, which I did with the help of some programmers for my old job.
Nice.
But since then, I haven't had a need for a tablet, so I don't know how this thing works. So, working out the kinks, probably should have used pen and paper for this.
So, hopefully...
I'll remember stuff.
Yeah, hopefully you'll remember stuff. If not, this will just be a 30-minute episode of Ian talking and John nodding his head.
Disagreeing.
Hopefully not. So, I guess let's jump right into it then. The first episode that we watched is entitled Synara's Score. Now, if you remember, John, the Synara was the name of the person who, and this just came to my mind as soon as I started talking. She's the pirate who was obviously a pirate from the rescue episode.
Yeah, the pink one.
Yes. And we were like, she's probably a pirate. And then at the end of that episode, she was totally a pirate.
Yep.
So in this episode, essentially, Synara is on the platform kind of waiting for an opening to call her pirate friends in. And the pirate friends find their opening when Doza sends the aces off-world to do something. And their cannon is down. Doza, knowing the cannons are down and that his defenses are going to be away, calls up Yeager and his team to try to get them to fix said turret. It's interesting to me that Doza trusts Yeager to repair critical systems. I think that that's something that was a relationship that's been hinted at so far, but we haven't really explored it too much, so this is a good build-up for that. Of course, the aces leave, the turret's still down. Synara signals the pirates, which come in and attack. When that happens, the team scrambles to get the gun repaired before everything can end, and the pirates get away with whatever it is they're getting away with, food, supplies, stuff like that. They succeed in booting the turret back up. Interesting that Tam becomes very close with Synara in this episode and runs off to save her. Synara, of course, wants to save face and still keep her in on the platform, so she punches one of her cohorts in the face and kind of thanks Tam for her concern. So there might be something there in the future, seeing how Synara's kind of character arc grows, if she'll still remain piratey or switch sides. I think they've set that up for more stuff. Synara's a pretty good actress. You know, sometimes when you're working in a kid's show, they have a tendency to kind of overact when they're pretending to act, people, so that you can obviously tell that they're lying or being deceiving.
Their emotions are more prevalent to a audience that may not get the subtlety.
Right. But I think Synara was doing the character was doing well in hiding her deceptiveness from the group. Was there anything in particular about this story or this episode that caught your eye from your memory?
Yeah, right. Especially since this is one that I didn't take notes on 2 weeks ago, because I said, I'm going to watch this again, and then we were just having trouble watching it. I do enjoy that we are getting a little, like, a look at other characters. I think so far, it kind of feels like the show has been... It hasn't really branched out beyond Kaz's small circle.
Right.
And then every now and then a random character will come in and then leave. I'm glad that we're getting to see a little bit more with character development with a character that could have easily just been written off as another background character after her first episode.
Sure. Yeah, I think that, we got to give them a little bit of credit. We're only 7 episodes into the first season.
Right.
But, yeah, they've started that branching out, I agree. Here's something interesting I noticed, is that when they were talking about the laser cannon that they're trying to repair, they do mention something about kyber crystal tech being used for the cannons. I find that kind of interesting because, during the Jedi days, they kind of had
the monopoly on them.
Yeah, control over those crystals, but it seems like with the Jedi falling and the Empire experimenting, kyber-based tech has gotten more extensive.
Yeah.
Which I guess that can even stretch back into Krennic territory. Good job, you.
I have one thing that I think I'll be adding to every one of our ongoing episodes, which I'll be calling John's nitpicking of a child's cartoon.
Right, sure.
So, the Colossus's normal defense is the ace pilots.
Right.
But you think that they would want to maintain the defensive turrets even when the pilots are there? Right. I just find that very irresponsible of Doza.
Well, speaking...
And that was my dumb nitpick, but I get it. It helps build a whole... The story's not about the canon. The story's about Synara and the rest of Yeager's team. And not really about station defense.
And I have a nitpick about that, too. In that in prior episodes to this, and in episodes after this, we see security droids on the platform. Where were these security droids during the pirate attack? But yeah, you're right. It's just a nitpick.
Has nothing to do with nothing.
Now, I've been a little bit nitpicky about Kaz's swaying between actual, making intelligent decisions and being a buffoon throughout our discussions on this series.
Mm.
And in this episode, he does mention that he doesn't quite trust Synara, which shows that he's not a complete buffoon. So he's swung back into that direction for me. It's interesting that Doza also trusts Yeager with pirate strategy intelligence that he has. So that, again, strengthens that connection. Another thing about the pirate attack, though, is the Colossus a blaster-free zone? It doesn't seem like it would be, but the only people we ever see carrying blasters around on the Colossus have been stormtroopers, and in an episode after this one, we see another group carrying them. Because I would think a place like the Colossus, full of a bunch of toughs, would have no problem defending themselves against a pirate attack.
Yeah, I think there could be an argument said that since we don't see anyone without blasters, I don't remember seeing anyone with blasters besides security, that maybe they're discouraged with the aces being there. They're the ones that protect you. You could say in modern society how, at least, here in the States, guns aren't illegal, but in some places, open carry is illegal. With the idea of they don't want people to take the law into their own hands when they have hired professionals to do that for them. Sure. Though that could be a first for Star Wars, since well, at least the places that we mostly see in Star Wars are the Outer Rim, the war zones, the underground, places where people are going to have guns regardless of what the law is,
Right.
Or it just could be one of those things that's it's a kid's show and they just don't want to show civilians walking around with firearms or laser arms.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Here's another thing that I wrote down in my notes. This episode would have been a great opportunity to see Kaz prove himself against the pirates in the fireball, if it was working. And I know we're only, so many episodes in, but so far I'm not getting, like, the dogfighting aerial combat vibe I thought we would get out of this show. Mm-hmm. And again, that could just be because, we're 8 episodes into the first season.
Another thing could be we just misinterpreted what the show is going to be about.
Sure.
Which... That doesn't mean it's a bad show.
Right. No,
it just means that, we just have to adjust our, I want to say interest. Man, I'm having a hard time with words tonight. Expectations.
Yeah.
Lowered expectations, not to be confused with the SNL dating site.
Yeah. Not exactly lowered expectations, but just different.
Different, yeah.
Yeah.
More different.
But it's a shame because I'd really like to see more of that. Kaz is a military-trained pilot. You'd think he'd be a better, like, on-ground fighter because he's kind of... does the goofy gangly thing and the sort of the Jar Jar style of combat where I accidentally pushed you off of
his style of combat is behind the controls of a starfighter more than on the ground.
I'm
sure he got some basic military like hand-to-hand training, but
display that like at all during this episode. And I think that was another reason for my next tote, which was like every time they give Kaz a bit of serious skill, they make him seem like a total goof. Some consistency would be nice, but I guess it's a kid's show, so I shouldn't complain. So there you go. I guess the pendulum swung back around.
Real quick on that note, that's one thing that I hope that we don't start using as an excuse for things that don't make complete sense to us as adults. Like, I don't want to keep using the excuse that this is a kid's show.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a place for it.
Right.
But it can't be a blanket excuse for everything. Yeah. It has its limits. I agree with you. But I think in that particular instance, it's a good place for it.
Yeah, once the season's over, let's go back and listen and have a drinking game about every time we say it's a kid's show.
Yeah, right.
Take a shot of some Carillion whiskey.
Some Carillion ale. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, anything else about that particular one?
No, I did like the Synara. I honestly couldn't tell if she attacked her mates, her crew members, her pirate crew members.
I think all 3 of those are appropriate for pirates.
I don't feel that she necessarily attacked them just to maintain her cover. I do feel like she has, in some ways, grown an attachment to the team.
Sure.
It may not be super prevalent now, but I think they're sowing the seeds for her to have a change of heart sort of thing.
And she could totally... There's room for other characters in this show. We haven't really developed all the ones that we have yet.
Right.
Speaking of character development, unless you have anything else to add, I was going to move on to the next one.
No, I don't got nothing else.
All right. The Platform Classic.
Oh, yeah.
Is the next episode. This is so remember all those notes you had that got deleted?
Yeah.
That's the one we're talking about.
I'm super bummed about that because there were some good notes. Stupid tablet.
So,
no offense, I didn't mean that. Don't be mad.
In this episode, where everybody's talking about the Platform Classic, which is a race that's going to be held on the platform, and there's a big credit prize pot. Kaz seems very excited about possible entry into the classic. This entry turns out to be Marcus Speedstar, who is actually Yeager's actual legit brother.
Right.
Invited there by Doza to convince Yeager to spice up the race by entering, because he's apparently a very good pilot. But there's some baggage involved in that little family dynamic, John. What is their baggage?
This was something that bugged me throughout the whole episode. Because they keep talking about there's baggage and there's something happened, and then they would bring up... I'm just going to jump straight into it. They'd bring up Yeager's family, and then they would bring up racing again, and then they'd bring up Yeager's family, and then they'd be like, I had a family once, and then that conversation would go nowhere. This happened like 4 times, and it bugged the crap out of me.
I thought it would. I absolutely thought it would.
Because I knew what it was after the first time it was mentioned, but they just didn't mention it they didn't connect the dots. There's several things in this episode. Again, one of those nitpicky things that John cares about doesn't actually care about. Whatever I called that in the last 3 minutes. Things about this episode, and I realized that's what I was taking most of my notes on.
Right.
But, oh yeah, so you asked me a question, and now I'll answer it. Due to a racing stunt that Speedstar did. See, now I've thought about this so hard that, like, now my brain should wait. Is this what happened? So, it caused his family to, like, killed his family? I'm so confused now.
From what I understand, from what I got from it...
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers for the episode we're about to finish talking about.
That we've already spoiled.
So, here's what I couldn't figure out. I couldn't figure out if, one, they had a race where he cheated using a volatile nitro, hyperfuel, and then in a separate occasion, he caused a crash that killed Jaeger's family, or if the hyperfuel incident was the thing that caused the crash that killed Jaeger's family. But one of those two things happened.
Yeah, and that's basically what I got out of it, was that the hyperfuel incident was the same incident in which Jaeger's family's killed, which is why Jaeger and Speedstar, which is definitely his real name,
right?
why they've had tension
through the entire episode.
Yeah, and for the past, what was it, 10 years or
10
something
years,
like that?
Yeah, I think it was.
Or Speedstar's been trying to find his brother, trying to find Jaeger to, ask for forgiveness, to tell him that he's sorry, and Jaeger's like, no,
Yeah.
And like, you need help? No.
It's a funny thing you mentioned that he needs help, because
why does he need help?
Speedstar does need help in this particular situation. He's being pursued by the Guavians. Guavian Death Gang, which I thought was a really cool addition to this.
Because I think I'm not alone in saying that their design was a little wasted in TFA.
I agree.
Not that their inclusion was bad, because they're a major plot point of that movie. Just that it's such a cool costume, I wanted to see it again.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see these guys walking around.
Yeah, I don't think the Guavian costume got the love that it should have.
We didn't see Bala T in this, did we?
No, we didn't see Bala T. But the Guavians have chased him down because he owes them money, and the money for this race he's going to use to pay them off.
Right.
However, he has two problems. The first problem is Jaeger decides to enter the race, and Jaeger is a better pilot than Marcus.
Yep.
And the second problem he has is that his mechanic gets straight up kidnapped by the Guavian Death Gang, and they're just like, give us our money or we'll kill your mechanic.
Which is awkward. So, before we move into that, I had several weird, dumb, nitpicky things that, again, mean nothing. In the long run, mean nothing. When the race is announced, Doza says that it's going to be a great economic stimulus for the Colossus.
Sure.
Now, I could not figure out how taking money from the Colossus and giving it to one person was going to help the economy of the Colossus, unless that person was going to immediately turn around and put that money into shops and mechanics on the ship, which, I mean, the aces are there all the time, so there's a good chance that money would be going back into the ship. But if Speedstar wins, that 100,000 or 10 was 100,000 or 10,000?
It was like 20,000.
Something thousand credits was going to be going away from the station forever.
Well, let me ask you a question, John. Maybe this will help.
Am I thinking too much about this? Yes.
Well, I think you're thinking too narrowly about it. When we live in Southern California.
It's true.
Let's just take the Del Mar Speedway, for instance. When the races are going on at the Del Mar Speedway, Del Mar Fairgrounds,
Del Mar Racetrack,
whatever. When
horse racing,
not when the horse racing is going on there, we get a bunch of people coming into that city, spending money
as tourists.
Yeah, as tourists, spending the money around town, buying from the vendors, putting money into the economy.
Right, and I totally get that, but the way that he presented it was like, the prize is this much money, which will boost our economy.
Oh,
and he tied it specifically to the prize amount, and it wasn't until like halfway through the episode I'm like, oh, there's probably people coming from off planet. I mean, Speedstar did, and that's just such a great name.
I actually, on that note about the name, I said, I have a note that says, Marcus Speedstar is the most Star Wars name ever,
right.
which is why it's hilarious it's fake.
That is 100% the first note that I had before it all got deleted. But what I love about that name, since we're just going to move on from the economy thing because it's a cartoon.
Right.
Drink, future us. Well, the thing I loved about his name, besides the fact that it's so obnoxiously Star Wars, is that it sounds like one of the names of characters I've come up for Star Wars characters in games, in like our Star Wars pen and paper RPGing systems.
Sluice Quasar
Blast, Thantolier Shootfirster.
Yep.
Shootfirster is probably my favorite. He never shot first.
No, never.
True story, he never did. Anyway, so dumb economy, won the race. Where were we?
So his mechanic gets kidnapped by the Guavian Death Gang, and the ensuing race, which I like that we got to see an actual race.
Right.
I would love to see more of that in this series. During this entire race, they're unloading their baggage and repeating the same things they've been repeating the entire episode until they actually get to the point.
So, the thing that bugged me the most was that multiple times Starduster. What's his name? I forgot.
Starduster's a great one. You should write that down.
I would, but it's not going to save on my tablet.
Yeah, right. Speedstar. Starduster.
Multiple times before the race, he tells Yeager straight up, my mechanic's been kidnapped, and if I don't get this money, he's going to die.
Yeager's like, not my problem.
Yeah, Yeager goes, well, I used to have a family. And then just walks away. I'm like, you're kind of missing the point, Yeager.
Yeah, you're kind of not...
Maybe I get it. Like, it's trying to show just how passionately, like, he doesn't want his brother in his life anymore.
Right.
But I think they kind of wrote it in like, hey, Yeager's kind of a dick.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I got. In fact, I almost wrote that down as a note, and then I was like, let's see where this goes.
He's a little whiny, and it's like, if maybe he had done it one time where he just kind of wrote him off one time because he was so angry to see him. But he just kept doing it. I'm like, wow, there's someone's life's at stake, and you keep saying it's not your problem, so you want to win this race solely to spite your brother.
Right. Which, I mean, if my wife and kid died in a race...
Fair.
Accident.
Okay,
like,
that's a fair enough point.
Yeah, we're looking at this from we're watching a cartoon perspective, but like, dude's wife and kid died.
And
so
we've learned from other Star Wars movie, even if you have like the greatest self-control ever, once your loved ones get hurt, you're gonna go kill some younglings.
Yep, pretty much. That's always.
Or Tuskens.
Or at the very least, ignite your lightsaber over your nephew's head.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Force choke some Gamorreans.
Sure. Absolutely.
And other such hypocrisies.com. We talking about resistance,
other
right?
such hypocrisies.com. That's talk more about that in the EBN. So eventually Yeager gets it through his skull that, maybe I shouldn't let my brother's mechanic friend die over this.
Well, after a very heartfelt apology from Speed Skater.
Yeah, which Marcus, the whoever acted him, did a very good job of it, I thought.
Yeah.
And he'd be a character I'd be interested in seeing come back.
More of down the line. I'm sure we'll see him pop up again down the line.
Yeah, I liked him. I liked his mechanic too, and his droid. Like, they all had personality.
Spiky fish face.
Yeah, spiky fish. Fish. Oh, fish. Fish.
I'm leaving that in.
It's been a couple days. Marcus does mention something interesting about after why they went to racing after they left the Rebel Defense Fleet. They said that the fleet downsized after its conflict with the Empire, which I thought was very kind of interesting.
Which I don't remember very well, but I think something similar happened to that in the EU.
Okay.
Where after the Imperial is defeated, there's not really a big threat. So, they kind of let go of some pilots. And I mean, that happens in real life, so to speak.
Sure, yeah.
After a big conflict, there's usually a scale down of armed forces.
Right. Which makes sense. I just thought it was an interesting little kind of droplet of lore.
Mm-hmm.
They also name dropped Rishi, the planet.
Okay, so you caught that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And cool. I like that planet. I've only ever experienced it in the Old Republic game, but it's a fun planet. It's like a jungle planet.
They specifically say the maneuver we pulled on Rishi, and I remember there's something in Star Wars somewhere that's called the Rishi maneuver.
Oh, that's cool.
Or it's either that or that's a Star Trek thing, and I'm confusing it with Rishi Squares, which is some sort of game that I always assumed it was Foursquare with Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
Yeah, see, you said Reese's Squares, and all I'm thinking about is Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. In fact, I might have to go get some after we're done recording this. Did you notice the helmets on display in the background of when they're taking bets on who's going to win the race in the bar?
The ones that are they the ones that are in front of the window?
Anzi's?
Kind of. Her name's Anzi, by the way.
Anzi, yeah, thank you.
I noticed them enough to notice that they were there, but I really wasn't. I don't remember what they were.
I want to go back and look at them again, but I definitely saw an Imperial Super Commando, a Mando Super Commando helmet on there, and I was just like, that's cool. My note specifically says, see if John noticed.
Yeah, see, they're not really Imperials. They're just kind of like Mandalorian auxiliaries, so whatever.
All right. Anything else about the platform classic that caught your brain?
No, the last note that I remember was more of a mental note that I am taking too many notes on nitpicks, yeah. And I think part of me thinks is telling myself that that's a good thing, that the nitpicks aren't necessarily things that relate to the story.
Sure.
As I'm enjoying the story so much, I'm not really, for the most part, I'm not thinking look at how well your pilots are. I can't think of a good thing to say because I'm enjoying it so much as a whole that I don't want to single one thing out.
Right, gotcha.
Another thing that I really enjoyed about this episode is since we finally actually got to see more of a full race than we normally do. Mm-hmm. I like that it's not just flying through the rings like your Superman 64. That you're flying through the rings, but sometimes the rings have an effect.
Right.
Shut your engine down in an atmospheric freefall.
Yeah, or they're turning and you have to go through them at a specific
angle sort of thing. Skill. So I thought that was kind of it adds to my hope of a Resistance racing game coming out because I need something to fill the hole that Episode 1 Racer has left and has never brought back in any other console.
Episode 1 Racer was an amazing
game. It was, behind Pokemon Snap, it was behind Pokemon Snap, it was my favorite 64 game.
Yeah.
And I hate racing games.
We'll have to actually do the gaming episode we've been promising since we started this podcast.
No, that's dumb.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought that the race was really cool. I want to know more about that Imperial Racer because his ship is weird and his helmet is rad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they took both versions of the Interceptor, the TIE Interceptor and the Jedi Interceptor.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was called, right? The one that they used, the triangle-ish ones.
Right. I don't think it's called an Interceptor, but I know what you're talking about.
Intercessor?
No.
Something more Jedi-y?
Jedi-y?
Well, not Jedi-y, but Jedi.
Not the Jedi-y.
I don't think the Jedi-y had starships. I think they were just monks that lived in a hole.
Well,
or something.
Legends Canon says a bunch of pyramid ships came and picked up a bunch of Force sensitives and dumped them all on.
Yeah, I've seen that show. It's called Stargate.
Yeah,
it was a great movie.
It's whoever wrote that liked Stargate. It was a thing.
So next episode.
So yeah, the next episode.
Or did you have anything you wanted to finish up on that?
No, I got everything out of that one.
Cool.
I enjoyed that one a lot. Like I said, give me more Starship stuff, and racing and all that because the graphic, the art style really suits it, and it was fun to watch.
Yep.
All right, the next one was Secrets and Holograms. In this episode, we get to see Doza struggling a little bit more with
First Order,
figuring out. Struggling a little bit more with the First Order, trying, he seems like he really is trying to distance himself from them, but is having less and less of a choice, especially with the increased pirate attacks. We kind of get to see the fruits of that, where Kaz figures out that the First Order is going to be coming onto the platform, and he goes up and he tries to spy on Doza. In doing so, he bumps into Tora, who definitely does not want to, she's bored because her father's very controlling, because he's very paranoid about her safety. And basically, Kaz and her use each other to achieve their own ends. Tora uses Kaz as an excuse to get out of the tower, and Kaz uses Tora as an excuse to be in the tower at some point to spy on Doza. Eventually, there is a deal proposed by the First Order. Doza says he's going to take care of it and look into it. Kaz eventually ends up inside of the office after a bunch of shenaniganery and discovers that Doza has I believe it's specifically a captain's uniform in his closet. Kaz eventually gets away because Tora was able to distract her father. But that in turn has Tora suspecting that Kaz is not telling her everything and might be a spy. I think she asks him straight up in the episode, and he's like, "What? No, I was just trying to hide from the security bots that we have that didn't do anything to fight the pirates a couple weeks ago. Don't worry about it." So yeah, I had fun with this episode. The comedy was on point in this one. Tora has a pet thing named Bubbles, and I want one because it's like a cat and a dog and an owl, and it's so fat and it's amazing, and I want one.
All the cute animals of Lothal shoved into one weird animal.
Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. I need a Loth cat, a Loth wolf, and a Bubbles.
And a puffer pig.
And a puffer pig.
Can't forget the puffer pig.
Can't forget the puffer pig. Doza is more of a complicated character than I initially thought, which was a nice surprise. What do you think about Doza as it relates to kind of where we see his struggles?
So, maybe it's just because I've watched so many shows before and stories and movies and stuff that I can kind of tell what a character's about based on how the storytellers push that character. Since the beginning of the show, we've been led to believe that he is actively working but with the First Order, and that maybe he's not a good guy.
Sure. And
especially in this episode where there's a reveal that he was once an Imperial officer.
Right, which I suspected from the get-go.
Yeah. The show's been pushing Doza, so hard as this, he's probably a bad guy.
Right.
That it seemed when the reveal was a little bit obvious, at least to me, just because I'm a fan of this sort of media, that it's a little more complicated. And, it was always going to be more complicated because the Colossus exists kind of outside Republic space, kind of outside First Order space, and so he was always going to have to try to work a deal with whoever's in power,
right,
to keep his station, to keep his family safe.
Kind of the Lando predicament.
Exactly. Lando wasn't a bad person, like we were kind of led to believe when we see him in Empire, but at the end, he was just doing it he made that deal because he believed that if he did, the Empire would leave Cloud City, leave him, and leave the citizens of Cloud City alone. He was trying to be a responsible administrator.
Right.
Which is what Doza's trying to do. But I think that we kind of, like I said, we're getting kind of pushed to believe that he's more First Order sympathizer, but I think he wants to ally himself more with the First Order because they're the ones that can provide protection for him, because he doesn't know that they're the ones paying the pirates to attack yet.
Right. I think this episode actually does a lot to show that he's not super on board with the First Order. Speaking of the First Order, Captain Pyre, our gold Stormy friend, he is simultaneously polite and menacing, and I love it. It's the military equivalent of, hey, you can pay us back whatever you want. You just might have a few broken bones in the process. Right. It's and I also like how the First Order seems like they're relying heavily on this intimidation tactic.
Right. But
because they're not the Empire, it doesn't always work.
Right. And I think Doza knows that as an Imperial.
Right.
or former Imperial, I should say. And that reveal that he was an Imperial officer, it didn't faze me at all. Not because I'm an Imperial fanboy, but I can think of at least 5 rebel leaders that were Imperial officers at some point. Like, just because someone served in the Empire doesn't necessarily mean that they held the same beliefs. I mean, Han Solo joined the Empire to get off Corellia.
Right.
Well, to get away from the gangs of Corellia to hope one day get back to Corellia to save Kira. What I did like, one of the things I did like is that it portrayed Torah as kind of like the princess in the castle, like literally in the tower sort of thing. And Kaz isn't going in there like stereotypical fairy tale thing to go in there to rescue the princess. He's going in there on his own mission, and the princess that's trapped in the tower is the one that's rescuing the person that's coming into the tower. And I thought that was kind of a cool switcheroo on the standard thing, because the princess in the castle is a fantasy trope, and Star Wars is a fantasy. Right. So they could have easily done that, but they didn't.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
Kind of a Rapunzel and Disney's Tangled, if I remember that movie right.
Yes, you do. I watched it recently for the first time and thought it was awesome. Yeah, Torah is just all around adorable. I think that's something we can agree on.
She's adorable, but she isn't like helpless and adorable.
Right.
She's adorable and she's smart and she's. I mean, you don't get to be called an ace pilot. Well, maybe she got called an ace pilot through nepotism, but she is a good pilot.
Right.
I mean, I don't think her dad would send her out on dangerous missions if he didn't have confidence in her skill.
I mentioned that the comedy was on point in this episode. I enjoyed the chauffeur bot, I guess I'll call her, that Bubbles just like leaks on her, and she just complete monotone voice. Oh, Bubbles, why? That legitimately made me laugh. There's a boffin in the market. Torah asks how much something is, and he gives her a price, and then recognizes that she's administrator's daughter, and just increases the price again, which that also made me laugh. You know, it just it was a good episode. I had a lot of fun with this particular one. I did like the reveal of Doza's imperialness, even though I saw it coming a mile away. Him finding the uniform in the closet, I thought was a good way to do it. It was a cool way to figure that out. But then Kaz full on goes into, he was an imperial, accusatory, and I'm like, oh, Kaz, don't be so judgmental. And this is going into where it's a kid's show is not a good excuse. It's a kid's show, but they do understand nuance that we don't give them, more nuance than we give them credit for.
Right.
You know, like we can give them a little bit more credit than that. Come on. Also, I maintain that this is the best invention in the Star Wars in Star Wars utility technology. Their trash incinerator is just a room where they shoot lasers at trash.
It seems so, like, unnecessary and
inefficient.
I feel like crushing walls, like on the Death Star, is far more efficient than randomly shooting lasers into a room. But, you know, who knows? We don't know. Maybe it is more efficient. We don't got lasers like that.
My note says, trash incinerator. It literally shoots lasers at trash. The future is great.
Past. It's the past.
Also, when they were playing, one of the ways that Kaz weasels his way in is he and Torah play the same video games, and it's this like hollow VR.
Yeah, it's an augmented reality flight sim.
Augmented reality flight sim, and I was just like, they're still trying to sell us on motion controls, huh? This is a really obscure note, but whoever's doing the Foley for the episodes, you're nailing it on the Stormtrooper armor. Foley being, for those who might not know, Foley is the act of making the noises for sound effects in a movie. So, like, you know, if somebody's walking on snow, it's up to somebody in the studio to take their shoes and find a substance that sounds like snow and record the walking of the snow. And I don't know why, but I thought that I really liked how when the stormtroopers are moving, their plates like crinkle and jingle and, you know, hit each other like they would in the movies proper. And I thought that was very well done. So good job, Foley guy. I'm sure you don't get enough credit. Or girl. Foley person. Good job, Foley person.
Person of indeterminate gender.
Yeah. Anything else on this particular episode, John?
I think the only thing is that the reveal that Doza was formerly Imperial. I think one of the things that, like I mentioned, there are so many other rebels and resistance members that were formerly Imperial. The thing that I like about it is it's showing that life goes on after that galactic conflict.
Sure.
The thing that I can relate it to the most is Captain Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly, where before that series started, there was a civil war within a distant solar system, which could be, it itself could be related to the American Civil War. Malcolm Reynolds fought on one side, their side lost the war, like Doza's side lost the war, and now he's just trying to, make a living in a new galaxy as a member of the losing side. So I'm interested to see if that story will be developed on any more than the eventual Kaz confronting him about it, and then Doza being like, I'm just trying to get by, which is what I'm seeing is going to happen.
Sure.
Or because I'm sure Yeager knows. I don't think this is a secret, but I think it's something that he doesn't openly talk about, Doza, that is. And so I'm wondering if he and the former Imperial ace pilot, I want to know an interaction between them.
That would be interesting.
To see, because they're both veterans of the Galactic Civil War, and I just want to, I'm just kind of curious to see what their interactions would be, if they're kind of both the same and we're just trying to get by, or if one of them is more still holding on to what was, or the other one's trying to move on.
If one of those two is holding on to what was,
it's the ace pilot.
It's going to be the ace pilot that flies half of a TIE fighter, has a giant Imperial cog tattoo, and wears his TIE fighter suit.
If I got a giant Imperial cog tattoo and then I lost the war, I would still probably have that tattoo. And I don't think flight suits fit his biceps. So
is that it? He's just too swole?
Yeah, too swole.
No, I think that you make a good point, and I think that the relationship that Yeager, an X-Wing pilot, and Doza, a ex-Imperial captain, can get along with each other and in fact trust each other with information that keeps the platform running definitely serves to illustrate your point.
So I'm sure that there are still a ton of formerly Imperial officers running the Republic defense fleets.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all we got for those things there. Before we go away, I just did want to give a shout out to the Beyond the Blast Doors podcast. I've been listening to them lately, and they have taken, at this point, 2 of my questions that I've asked them on Twitter. They've been doing some live shows, and they're fun to watch and participate in. They're a good group of guys, and they've got varied opinions, and they're fun to listen to. So we'll just stick those clips in here, I suppose.
You could do that.
Stick them here.
Gotta tell it to Conja Club.
Always tell it to Conja.
He gets his protein somewhere. Let's go to FanCom. The first tweet we got here is from Ian, and I think this is great. So Ian, he does a Hoth Podium, a podcast of their own, cool show. Check it out. Listen to an episode earlier this week, just trying to get a better understanding of what they do. There are so many different Star Wars shows. So you missed some of them, but glad to be following your Star Wars conversation now. He says in the latest podcast, it was all about what we'd like to see in the various new Star Wars properties coming out. So what's the one thing that you'd like to see in the new Star Wars? And he lists Mando, Episode 9, Cassian Resistance, the Galaxy of Adventures shorts that we've gotten. And then, of course, he used the hashtag Beyond the Blast Doors, because when you want to submit your questions into this show, just use the hashtag Beyond the Blast Doors. It's really simple to do, and he did it. So, Jesse, what's the one thing that you have to see in the new Star Wars?
I actually have 2 things.
Oh, baby, give it to me.
Okay, obviously, me being a Mandalorian nerd, I need more of that lore and story for Mandalorian culture.
Well, you're getting a whole TV show.
I'm getting a whole TV show, so I'm obviously really pumped about that. I guess you'd say the one thing is a confirmation of Boba's survival. I don't care if he doesn't play a huge role. It can be a cameo or just even somebody go, he's still out there kind of thing, just that confirmation. The other thing when it comes to Cassian I want more K2 in those one-liners. Why does she get a blaster and I don't? Kind of thing, like K2 is awesome in Rogue One. So that's what I want out of those two shows.
David, if there's one thing that you have to see in the new Star Wars stuff,
lightsabers.
Wow, that was I could have put a Las Vegas bet on that one. I really want to think, it's not mentioned here. Benioff and Weiss are working on a series of movies. Mm-hmm. We know that Game of Thrones wraps up in April of next year. Mm-hmm. You got to know that they're having conversations already. And so I really want to believe that they are doing Old Republic, and I want to see the Sith Wars. I want to see the Sith going against the Jedi. I think what would be dope is if they go before, they go to the Sith Order, like before the Empire was just the Order. That would be really cool because I think that would be like, wow, they also did the research.
You're not missing much there. If it's anything close to MMO, it's just a bunch of backstabbing, whiny Sith lords.
I want the thing where
I'm okay with that.
I just want 1,000 Sith over here and 1,000 Jedi over here, and they just run at each other.
I want the Battle of Geonosis, but better.
A lot better. Way better.
And that was really cool.
I've been fighting on Geonosis recently. That's a whole different story.
I want space battles. I want better space battles. I think it's been a weak point of the sequel trilogy, for example. Here's my thing. Revenge of the Sith gave us the best space battle, I think. I loved all those large, I don't want to call them destroyers.
The one right at the beginning?
Yeah, the one at the very beginning. Okay. I mean, that was the most intense space battle we've ever, large scale. I want to see one that kind of changes it up a little bit. I watched this video the other day, blanking on who made it, but a very good point. Why do all the Star Wars battles go like this? They're in space, but they're only on one plane. They're only going two directions. Why aren't they going all? I mean, I'm sure it's something to do with coordinates and plotting and how you enter a system and stuff. But I want to see a mess of a starfight, and I want to see little gunships. I want to see X-wings cruising around, trying to dodge big cruisers.
If you remember, and I can't remember what episode it was, but it was in the Clone Wars, and they actually use a strategy where they rotate one of the Republic cruisers on its side to shield.
Yes.
Yeah, because it wasn't as damaged, kind of thing. So
that was a novel idea. Everyone lost their mind.
And it they also had this strat with the fighters and everything. It drew the droid fighters in and allowed the clone fighters to get the upper hand. You mentioned that battle of the opening of Revenge of the Sith, and the one sound that sticks out is the ARC 170s.
Yes.
That noise they make. It's just, I love it.
Which should definitely be a Lego set in 2019 to celebrate the
10th
anniversary. Yeah, make that happen. What do you think? What do you think about the thing we have to see in the new Star Wars stories? Let us know down in the comments below. Okay, fan comment. The first question we have here is from Ian, host of the Hoth podcast, and Ian's a good friend of the show now, and he says, with canon bringing legend stories back to the galaxy in a new and different way, what's the one story or character you'd like to see make it and why? David Beauty before the host, so what do you say?
Okay, so here's where Jesse would be helpful to have, because I don't know what exactly is canon versus not canon anymore. Okay. Is Darth Raven from Knights of the Old Republic, is he considered canon, or is he back in Legends?
Raven is not. We've had Bane.
Okay.
Raven was almost Raven. Darth Raven. Yeah, there we go. Was almost canon, but it didn't happen in Clone Wars.
That would be kind of cool.
Okay. Revan.
If he was canon, my follow-up was going to be Starkiller from The Force Unleashed.
Yes.
Because that would be so cool. I played those in college with my roommate. Thoroughly enjoyed them. And if he is he canon or is he's not canon?
He's not canon. Should have been. Those were George Lucas stories. I believe The Force Unleashed 1 and 2. There was originally he was under consideration to be an Inquisitor for Star Wars Rebels.
Really?
But they felt like he was just too strong. It's like there's no way that Kanan and Ezra could have handled that. So he was scratched. We actually did a video on it. It was one of our first videos that actually got some attention. So that was pretty cool. For me, I want Jackson the bunny.
Really? That's what you're going to bring back out of 42 years of books and comics. You're going to bring back the bunny.
I just think he would bring some diversity to the galaxy that people have been really craving. I think that you shouldn't judge character based on their appearance or the lack of creative ingenuity going into the creation of the character. And, it's another bounty hunter that you can add to your list of rogues and the antics that could ensue. Tag and Bink, we got that long-form comic with them.
I reread that,
but
the
that
other
doesn't
day.
make them canon. That they're still legends. So bring them in. I don't know. With all this, it's just there's gonna be people who are gonna look at the Thrawn trilogy and they're gonna want elements out of that. Like they're gonna want Thrawn to come back, and they want to make somehow those books canon again, which I don't think can happen because of the new 3 that we've gotten from Timothy Zahn. I think it's always a fun conversation where you can dive into these things. I mean, what do you want Mara Jade? That's not really a thing anymore. I would have liked to have seen that character. I would have liked to see who does the guy that you play when you're doing like Jedi Academy and all that? That's not Dash Rendar.
I don't know. I haven't played
Dash
that one.
Rendar is an EU character, though, that I think a lot of people talk about wanting to bring him back. Kyle Katarn is who I'm thinking of. Kyle Katarn was the one that's originally stole the plans to the Death Star. Well, you can't really use him anymore.
Yep. Mando Fury, our buddy Jesse, he says Kyle Katarn and Starkiller would be nice. C. Lawson live chat says Jackson Rabbit. He agrees with you.
Yes.
He says yes with a lot of S's on that. So I presume that's with gusto and enthusiasm.
I got his first appearance, which Star Wars comic first appearances really don't do much unless you have Star Wars number 1, 1977 and Mylar at a 9.4 grade.
Yeah. I think David's got something in his comic book
Don't look at
shelf
it. Don't
there.
even breathe on it, you son of a gun. Ian, I would love to know what you think, actually. What are the EU characters that you want to see come back? Are you okay that I took this a little juvenile in a way and brought you the funnier characters? Do you like how serious David was and he wants Revan back? Do you like, other... Well, I mean, just let us know. And if you're watching with us live, tell us right now. Let us know.
So yeah, those were some clips from Beyond the Blast Doors, and they're definitely worth your time checking it out. I think in the next upcoming year, we're gonna try to connect you to a lot more of the great podcasts in the community. I think we said we were gonna do that.
Oh, we started
earlier.
doing that.
Yeah, I think we did it.
Just abandoned it.
We completely abandoned it, which is not fair to all these amazing podcasters out there. So if you want to take a look at Beyond the Blast Doors and check out their content, I definitely recommend it. You can check their stuff out at beyondtheblastdoors.com, and you can add them at Twitter at BTBD Star Wars. That's on Twitter. So if you want to get a hold of us, though, you can find us at hothtopicspodcast.com. You can also send us an email at hothpod@gmail.com or tweet at us on the Twitters at hothpod. I have been Ian.
I'm thoroughly confused on how tablet technology has changed so much since I bought a Nook Color 10 years ago.
That was John, who drew a matador on his new tablet. Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you next time. Yeah, yep, no.